Hey everyone, Tahoe here. In today's video we're talking about gear. To help me out, I've invited a member of our local hiking community to come and join the conversation.
I'm John Meyer. My trail name is Two Soups, and yeah.
Hey John, any new gear purchases this year?
I have not really looked at gear lately, but I definitely, if I was to go get something, I would get an ultralight hammock, just because the one I have weighs, I don't know, like 5 pounds. And it's just too much to carry on long trips, so that's probably where I would start. And the quilts intrigue me quite a bit, but you know, over time, I'll collect all those things.
You also have a tent, if I recall. Tell us about that.
Country River, it's made in Washington State, and it uses your poles to hold it up, your hiking poles, so you don't have to carry that extra weight and stakes. And it is pretty large for what it is, and they're only like $50. The only problem I found I don't like about it, it condensates every single time. So it's probably worth buying a good $200 or $300 tent that doesn't condensate like that, because you'll wake up and then you have to get the Shamu or whatever and wipe all the moisture out of it every time. But other than that, it's a good tent.
Have you had any issues with it?
I guess I got the short end of the stick. The last time I took my tent, the last couple of times, it was 40-mile-an-hour winds, so I had to keep the screen well, and I set the door up towards the wind because I thought the wind would die down at some point. It didn't. So the wind was kind of blowing in the tent all night, and then the one time it just rained all night. That was Virgin Falls. Just kind of rained all night, and each time I woke up and it was just too much condensation for me. Not a big fan of that.
Do you have a favorite piece of gear?
Favorite piece of gear? That's a tough question. I don't know. I'd have to say my Jetboil. I think that's my favorite piece of cooking equipment, just because it boils water in like 2 minutes, and it's just a super easy stove to use.
Tell us about a purchase that you regret.
I regret throwing money at my hammock that I have, mainly because when it first came out, it wasn't as light as the ones that came out now. They've upgraded it. So sometimes it's worth just waiting to purchase certain things, just because over time it gets better and better, lighter and lighter, and it's just, I would say that. And the one thing I don't regret buying is a good backpack.
In your opinion, what pieces of gear are really worth spending the money on?
I would either throw money in a shelter or a good sleeping pad or sleeping bag. Because honestly, that's probably the most important thing you need when you go out, is a good sleeping bag and a good pad or a good lightweight hammock.
Do you have any gear recommendations for new hikers?
Do your research. You can find good quality things that are cheaper to buy, that you don't necessarily have to pay a fortune, but also you do get what you pay for sometimes. And I've ordered stuff that has fallen apart in a couple trips, so I bite my tongue and I buy the more higher quality gear. If I do purchase anything, I wait. No cheap sleeping bag or anything like that.
Do you have any thoughts or an opinion on ultralight gear?
If you're first starting out and you're just doing weekend trips, I wouldn't worry about trying to do ultralight stuff as much until you get a little bit more experience, because you kind of have to learn how to pack first before you start getting the ultralight stuff. And then once you learn how to pack a little bit better, and then obviously you've upgraded your equipment more, that's when you start to go to ultralight. Because if you have any experience like me, the first couple of times are going to suck. And you're going to bring way too much crap you don't need. And you think you need it, but in all reality, you don't.
Do you have any advice for new hikers?
It's a process to kind of learn how to pack what you need. And of course, you're going to bring too much food, you're going to bring too much clothing, that kind of stuff.
John, thank you for joining us today and sharing your experience. On a personal note, I have too much gear, and I have to make a decision every time I'm getting ready for a trip. I'm going to be posting that decision-making process in some trip reports that I'll be putting out this spring that I hope everyone enjoys. If you have a story about your favorite piece of gear or any tips for the rest of us, please leave a comment down below and join the conversation. And if you're a part of our Nashville community, we'll see you on the trail.